Okay, there's a new friend who asked a question in the WhatsApp French group. He wants to know how one can measure one's advancement or one's progress into the isness of life, to the ISSSNISSS LifeIS. Well, there seem to be no markers, and I can understand his concern, because when going on a journey, at least there are some road markers which indicate how much distance one has covered. Well, in the new presentation, we don't have anything like that, any initiations, any certificates like we have in the corporation to flatter people. So how would you answer this guy who wants to know how one can measure one's progress on this into the awareness of life? How can one actually know this? He's doing anything, he's made any progress, Duane?
Okay, Charles, that is a good question. Yes, it's very interesting. And I look at, what I've been through. And prior to this, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Prior to this, we went through different studies. As an example, we went through the corporation, and in the corporation, they had initiations, which kind of, give you a signpost as to kind of what's going on. It's a reference, okay, but there's always more to it than that. Well, here's one way to look at it. There's many ways to look at it, and that is that as you've been raised by your parents, they provided these different ideas and signposts for you to refer to, these different ideas. Oh, be a good person, be nice to people, do this and whatever. So you develop yourself in a particular way, and each person does. But then at some point, as they support you, but at some point you're to go out and support yourself. So now all of a sudden you decide to be in business for yourself. Okay, let's use that as an example. And so when a person is in business for themselves, in other words, when you work for somebody else, you have other signposts there according to the business that you're working with. Okay, they've established certain things. Okay, you come into that business and the boss says, okay, you do this, you do this, you do that. So you've got all those references. But when you create your own business, no matter what it is, you've got to figure out what you're going to relate to, right? You do that yourself, don't you? There's a difference, isn't there? So here's the idea. This is the new presentation. Now that we've gone through all these funny things and creations that were created, the religious, spiritual paths, this and that, the yogas, whatever it is, okay, whatever thing we went through, okay, plus everything else in the social orders and what have you. Now we're in a new position to figure out for ourselves where we are at, because it's endless. People want freedom. They don't understand what freedom is. And people I refer to real freedom. Well, real freedom has no bounds. There are really no references to it. But in the meantime, to recognize this real freedom that is wanted, the individual now has to create their own reference points and decide where they are at. Just like that soldier that went through boot camp. At a certain point, when he's out there, if it's on the battlefield or going to the battlefield or going to some point, has to figure out for himself where he's at, even when he doesn't know where he's at, when he has no map or compass, has to figure it out, more than just what the personal self has known. And this is the best part, is that unknown, that uncertainty, to learn to recognize what's more real than those reference points that have been created. But this is where you create your own reference points in comparison to what the true reality, the isness is, so you can recognize where you are at. You see, Charles? That's the new presentation.
Now you don't know what the true reality is. You're just grappling. You're grouping. At the outset, you're like grouping in the dark. Even though you hear about the real universes, the real guides, and all that, you're actually grouping in the dark. So you don't. How can you then measure your own progress without knowing the ultimate?
With this, Charles, again, I don't refer to an ultimate. You know, that idea is an absolute in creation, you see. And there are no absolutes, but the ones that people create in creation where they're self-confining. There is no ultimate with the isness. And there's no groping in the dark. In other words, yes, you for a while you do, you wonder what's going on, and it takes some things, and you use everything you can, even the physical things and other people and whatever. That's what I've done too. I've used many sources and many others as references in the experiences they're having also. I use everything I can to figure out where I'm at in life, etc. I use everything, not just, what I create personally, etc. And yes, in a way we're groping in the dark, but eventually, like a person, starting their own business, they don't know everything to do. They talk to other people. They put it together the best they can. But then they present it out there to the public, and they've got to see how it works, how they get agreement, etc. Now, but the bigger picture is that figuring out yourself, your personal self with the whole of life. Yes. And so, but as you at a certain point, you start to see, and it's invisible. You start to see what makes sense more so than what you've known. So, see, you're trying to nail it down. You might say, well, this true reality, this isness, you can't do that. It can never be done. We can only provide references to it, explain it the best we can. And as people have experiences with themselves, or even through others, Rebazar has brought me many, many people, many seers, whatever, so that I would have an objective view of what they're experiencing to refer to me. So he would provide that. He would provide these people, as I've gone through this, to do what I'm to do, so that I would have objective experiences, and the experiences would come through them. But with myself, I would recognize what the experiences are, even though the people having the experiences didn't recognize them. But I did. It's very interesting how it works. So the idea is, it's about awareness. No, you don't just throw concern or whatever to the wind. That's not the idea. The idea, again, is to become more aware, pay attention, be now, just simply be aware, see what happens, and get ready to deal with it, because you don't know what's going to happen, and that's the best part. It's a surprise, and all of a sudden, many times you're surprised to where, hey, something really cool happens, doesn't it? It's not always bad. You see? No. They're very subtle little surprises. So again, this is where you put aside that panic idea. You put aside that part to where, there's a concern coming or whatever. I get it. I understand. But at the same time, let life surprise you, and you may see that there's a lot more to it than just being afraid of what's going to happen, you see. and looking to predictions and whatever. Hey, remember Y2K in 2000? Remember 2012, the world was supposed to end, all those predictions? Did it end? Did you buy into that too? 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar. Remember that one? That was a good one, wasn't it? Didn't happen, did it? Yeah. Time to get real, isn't it? Yeah. It's a lot more fun to discover what's real on your own. This is the part to where, you know, we've gone through all these lifetimes to where this opportunity is here, and you have the references like never before. Even what Paul created didn't reference this because people weren't ready for it. Ready or not, here it is, because we're here and the world controllers don't want people's attention on becoming more aware. So they're going to, get people to agree to destroy the world so they don't become more aware. I would say there's your concern and focus because it's very real. That's what they're doing. That's their plan. You're seeing it right in front of you. So you become more aware, or you stay at the mercy of the agreement of what's taking place and what they're deciding. Yeah, it's a heck of a challenge, isn't it? Yeah. But the isness is unique because it's endless. This is where you step beyond being self-convinced altogether. That's scary. That's scary for all of us. Yeah. But it's possible. You decide when you're going to do it.